Welcome to Truth and Company Boxing Podcast for another segment of 20 Random Questions. I'm your host, John the Truth Dioria, and today's guest is former IBF Super Middleweight World Champion Caleb Truax. How you doing, Caleb?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Good to be on with you.
Appreciate you taking time to come on. So if everybody doesn't know worldwide, you recently in the last few months have announced your retirement, right?
Yeah, just official, like the end of April. I've been in the game for almost 17 years as a pro and 40 fights, and I'm 40 years old. It was time to hang them up, man.
So what made you actually come to that decision? Did you sit down with your family first and kind of go over it? Did you talk to the coaches first? What was the final decision on it?
Well, after my last fight, which was like a year ago today, I think, obviously it didn't go the way I wanted, and I hadn't fought for 2.5 years before getting in the ring last June, and I felt good in sparring, worked hard, everything was going well, but when I got in there, things weren't firing the way they used to, and it was time to hang them up, man. And my coaches knew, and my family knew, and I knew, and I got to go away on my own terms, and yeah.
Okay. So now some people, if they follow social media, they've noticed that you've kind of gone into a new career. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? You're a realtor now, right?
Yeah. I got into real estate with my boy Chris Lindahl. He's been a big supporter of boxing. He's been ringside at all my fights for the last probably 7-8 years, something like that. And he's got one of the biggest brokerages in the Midwest. I think the number one brokerage in Minnesota. So it was only right that I went with him, and he showed me support over the years. So now we get to work together.
So now people that don't know, and I don't really know either, I've always just heard. Now, does that work strictly on commission? In order to get paid, you got to sell a house. So it's kind of like a boxer. In order to get paid, you got to sign a contract to get in the ring.
That's why I like it. It's competitive, and I told him right when I kind of was talking to him about possibly joining the team, I was like, I need something competitive. I don't want to work a 9-to-5 job and just go through the everyday bores of everything. And I want something where I got to compete, because when I do compete, I win. So, yeah.
So have you sold your first house yet?
Yeah, man. I have one that's under contract up in St. Cloud. A friend of mine sold his house before it even went on the market, and just recently, a friend of a friend put in an offer on a house with me, and it got accepted. And now he's got to sell his house in Maple Lake. So 3 of them back to back, and also another one in Savage that I'm about to list here pretty soon. And so I've been busier than I've been in a long time, man. I got to meet deadlines and do things now, man, instead of just punch people.
So this is pretty good, though. 3 houses within just a couple months of retirement.
Yeah, that from what I understand, it usually takes like 60 days to get your first transaction underneath your belt for most realtors. So yeah, 3 in a month was not surprising, but it was a welcome a welcome surprise.
All right, so you ready for these random 20 questions?
Shoot them at me, man.
Okay, well, first off, a lot of people might not know that you took a little bit of different path to becoming the pro. Most people, they walk into a gym 5-6 years old, whatever, they get brought in there, they go through the whole amateur thing, then they turn pro. But you took a little bit of different path, and for some of the world fans that might not know about that, question 1, how did you get involved in the sport of boxing?
I didn't go into a boxing gym till I was 20 years old, man. I always loved the sport when I was a kid, but I didn't know it was something that was available to people in my area. And when I was at the U of M my sophomore year, I joined a tough man competition, just like at a local bar, CR Billiards in Coon Rapids, and got my ass kicked the first time, but loved it and came back and did 1 or 2 more tough mans, and I got into amateur boxing.
And then how many amateur fights did you end up having?
I had like 35 amateur fights in about 3 years.
So 3 tough man competitions?
Either 2 or 3. I can't remember which
2 or
what
3,
it was.
30 some amateur fights, and you become a world champion.
Yep.
That's pretty remarkable, man.
Thanks.
All right. So basically you didn't get into a gym until you were 20 some years old. But I mean, what was the decision behind that? You had 3 tough man competitions and then you thought, okay, I'm just going to become an amateur boxer now.
Well, I was an athlete growing up. I went to Virginia to play football and ended up coming back to U of M after a knee injury. And at the U of M, I was just so bored, man. Like I was always competing. I was always playing sports, and I had nothing to do but just play like pickup basketball at the rec center and flag football and boxing kind of filled that competitive void. So I did my tough man tournaments. Like I said, got whooped. It was fun. Went back, won at least one time. I think I won 2 tough guy tournaments, and then I transitioned to amateur boxing and yeah, started my amateur career.
But now starting your amateur career, you weren't thinking about long term though, right? You weren't thinking about becoming a professional boxer, were you?
No, not at all. Yeah, I was in school at the time. I was just doing it for fun, man. And even when I was at the end of my amateur career, I was not not even really considering turning pro. You know, a lot of the guys from my gym were just kind of like journeymen and guys that just went out and got a paycheck and made $800 or $1,000 and got beat up. And I wasn't trying to do that. I was just trying to have fun and get my degree and get a job. And at the end of my amateur career, I actually was ruled ineligible to be an amateur because of the tough guy tournaments. And it was either quit boxing or turn professional, and I turned pro.
Wow, and the rest is history, world champion.
Yeah, as they say.
All right, question 2. Do you have any hobbies outside the sport of boxing?
Yeah, a lot, man. I love passing the time with golf. Fishing is probably my number one hobby, bass fishing. I love just hanging out with my kids, going up to, I have a cabin, and we go up to our cabin, fish off the dock, go swimming, all that type of stuff, and just being outside, man.
You got any interesting fishing stories? I know everybody's got a tall tail fishing story.
I mean, I got a bunch of them, man. I every year I go up to I haven't for the last couple of years, but since I've been about probably 16 or 17, I would go up to the Boundary Waters or Canada every year and fish with my cousins and a bunch of buddies and, spend a week in the wilderness. And so I got tons of stories centered around that. And then just, tall tales, the one that got away, those type of stories.
So what's the biggest one you ever landed?
When I was like 16, I caught it was a 40-inch or 40.5-inch northern up in Canada. That was probably like 20 pounds. I've caught a 30-inch walleye. That was probably about 10 pounds. Caught some big, almost 6-pound bass here in Minnesota. That's a big Minnesota bass. Nothing crazy, like crazy trophies, but probably the nicest fish I've ever caught was that walleye up in Alexandria.
Have you ever tried ocean fishing?
No, never have.
Okay. All right. Question 3. Did you have any boxing superstitions when you fought?
The only superstition I carried from my other sports is I kind of got away from it at the end of my career. But I used to, before my football games, before my baseball games, I always used to eat a package of oatmeal, cinnamon spice Quaker oatmeal, and I would just like shake it up dry and eat it before I had a game. And I continued that in boxing probably like for half of my career, and then I got away from it. I think I fought in California, and they wouldn't let me do it because you can only have like whole foods in the locker room, like fruit and vegetables and stuff, and they wouldn't let me eat it in the locker room. So that was the only superstition I had, but it only lasted about half my career.
Okay, question 4. Who's the one fighter that you just never got to fight that you really wanted to fight in your career?
Let's see. It's a good question. I don't know, man. I fought some good fighters. I would have loved to fight Canelo, obviously, because that's how you get. He was a golden goose, or he still is a golden goose. That's how you get paid. I was always like one fight away or one win away from fighting him. I think it was like 2 or 3 times where if I would have won a fight, I would have fought him next. So I'd say Canelo. He's the best in my division of this era, or of my era, anyways. And it would have been great to share the ring with him, and it would have been great to cash that paycheck.
All right. Question 5. What's the craziest or the funniest story that ever happened between you and a boxing fan?
Boxing fan. Uh, well, one time I thought I was gonna have to fight one of them, and I was. It was when I was starting out my career. I used to work part time at MGM in Champlin, the liquor store, and I was going over to the Subway in Champlin to get lunch, and I'm driving over there, and all of a sudden this dude starts like honking at me, and I'm like, "What the hell, man? I didn't do nothing." And he like whips a Yui right in the middle of like out into 169, and turns around and comes back into the parking lot, and I just go inside Subway. I'm like, shit, I'm gonna have to like fight this guy or something. I didn't know who it was. And he comes in and he's like, I'm in line ordering my sandwich. He's like, "Are you Caleb Truax?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "Will you sign?" I think he had me like sign like a baseball or something like that. Like, "Will you sign this baseball?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, man." And I sign it, and I told him like, "Hey, man, I to be honest, I thought I like did something wrong, and I was gonna have to fight you or something." It's like, "Oh, no, I wouldn't fight you, man. You kicked my ass. Actually, I want to come down to your gym." And then he started coming down to the gym and had a couple of fights.
That's pretty cool. All right. Question 6. What's something that you're very passionate about besides boxing?
um, my kids, I strive to be the best father I can for them. I grew up without a father, so I want them to really experience some of the things that I didn't growing up, and that was what was really cool about boxing is I got to kind of make my own schedule and got to be there for all the markers and didn't have to miss any appointments or anything like that. Uh, with my kids growing up, and I get to see all their games and get to see go to their practices and stuff like that. So that's probably the thing I'm most passionate about.
Okay. Question 7. Who was the hardest puncher you've ever faced in the ring in a fight or sparring?
There's been a few of them that stood out. I was just talking to him the other day, actually. Phil Williams from Minnesota was probably the hardest puncher. Um, he didn't really hit me with too much stuff that buzzed me, but just blocking his shots and feeling the force behind him. Yeah, he could punch, man, and that was the same with Antoine Eccles. Like I remember him throwing a right hand at me and me blocking it, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to get hit with that." So I had to be careful and keep them hands up. But yeah, probably Phil Williams was the hardest. I'd say the best puncher I faced was Danny Jacobs because he hit hard and he was just so quick that he was able to disguise it and you couldn't see the shots coming. He was a good puncher.
Okay. Question 8. How did you celebrate when you won the world title?
Oh man, me and the team were in London, and it was myself, Tony G, Ron Like, Jim Marine, Tom Halstead, and my strength coach Josh Hutton, and we all just kind of sat around and didn't know what to do with ourselves, man. Like everything was closed when we got back to the hotel. We couldn't even like get a drink or anything, and so I think somebody got us a couple beers or something like that. We were just hanging around the hotel drinking beers, and then uh, the whole team left the next morning. They had to catch a flight early in the morning, but Tom and I decided to stay for like 3 days in London because neither of us had ever been there before. So we just went around at the pubs and I remember the next day we watched the Vikings. The Vikings were on like Sunday Night Football or something like that, and we watched the Vikings game at a local pub in the Canary Wharf and drank beer. And over there, boxing's a major sport, so like everyone knew who I was. Everyone had seen the fight. Everyone was buying me free drinks, and it was fun.
Nice. So when you got back to Minnesota, was there any type of celebration for you winning the world title here?
Oh yeah. We it was cool, man. Like when I got back, the news stations were at the airport, and so that was cool. And then we had a big party with everybody up at Malone's in Maple Grove. Probably like 50 people stopped by. Actually, probably more than that. Just hanging out and brought the belt up there. We got to check out the belt and have some drinks and have some food and chill out.
Nice. All right. Question 9. Who was your favorite opponent that you fought in your career?
Favorite. What do you mean by favorite?
Well,
I
just
got
like when you think about it, like how the fight, just getting along with the guy, how the fight went, maybe back and forth. Just it was a great fight. Just when you think
yeah
back in your career, that it was just a fun fight overall.
yeah. Um, I would say I would say probably the local guys here, man. They weren't the best guys I ever fought, but like Matt Vanda was my boy, man. We trained together for years, and then ended up fighting each other, and now we're cool still. Um, Ceriso Fort, uh, we had a rivalry. He beat me in the amateurs. I beat him in the pros. But afterwards, now he's my boy, man. We every time we see each other, it's all love. I've spoken at his gym before, and I went down and sparred with some of his fighters and sparred with him. Phil Williams, we fought 3 times, once in the amateurs and twice in the pros, and that's my boy too, man. He was just at my retirement party the other day. Yeah, just the local guys, man. That we had rivalries as fighters, but now after it's all said and done, we get to hang out and drink a beer together and talk about the good old days, man.
All right, question 10. Tell me an interesting story out of your boxing career that social media or that the boxing fans might not have heard of.
Mm, that's tough, man. I'm a pretty open book when it comes to my career as far as social media goes, and let everybody know what's going on. Um, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could pick anything out in specific. There's so many things that go on behind the scenes that like most people would find boring and uh, stuff like that. But yeah, as far as stuff that goes that that's important to my career or anything like that, I think I was a pretty open book and let everyone know what was going on.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be an important story, just something different that the fans probably wouldn't have known about because it wasn't that big to end up in the news or whatever. Is there anything different, like when you went over to London, things like that, that you found interesting, or anything that happened over there before the fights or at weigh-ins or after the fight that the fans might not know? Because
Well, yeah, I guess we can stick with that one in London. When I went over there, I didn't realize that when we fight here, um, there's each state has their own commission, and when you fight in London, they have like the British Board of Boxing and Control, which it's a little bit more regulated and more organized over there on a national level rather than just a state level as far as commissions, or local level as far as commissions go. And so when we have weigh-ins here, there's just a weigh-in the day before the fight. You make your weight, and that's it. Yeah, and then you go fight the next day. Over there, I got over there on a Monday and was hanging out Monday night, and then woke up Tuesday and to go work out and start making weight. And they were like, "Hey, you have a weigh-in on Wednesday," and I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, you have to be within a certain amount of weight on Wednesday, otherwise you can't fight for the title." And I'm like, okay, that would have been nice to know more than a day in advance. And so you had to be within a certain percentage of the weight on Wednesday. Otherwise, they wouldn't even let you cut any more weight. You just had to fight at that weight, and it wouldn't be for the title. And so I had to lose a bunch of weight on Tuesday and Wednesday morning just to get within that percentage. And I think I had to weigh like I fought at 168. I had to weigh like 173 on Wednesday. And normally I don't. Normally I lose about 10 pounds, but I do it at the end. So I had to like cut weight twice basically, and do it that way. And then I also had to go get a brain scan, which I didn't know about. I had to go do that. So there was a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes that I didn't even know about. So the fans wouldn't know about either.
so now you going overseas. Now I've been overseas too. So I've talked to a lot of other fighters that have gone overseas. Do you feel that they play like mind games with the Americans? They leave things out. They
Yeah.
do little things to play with you to get you unfocused for the fight.
Yeah, they did. They did with me. I don't think that stuff was really a mind game. They just should have told me about it earlier. But when it came to gloves, they wouldn't let me use my gloves. That I had to use I use Everlast gloves, and that was my sponsor for years. And for whatever reason, they like said they struck down my gloves, and so I had to use Grant gloves. First time and only time I've ever used Grant gloves in my life, and it was just like the same ones that the Gale had. So I had to use those, and then I went to turn in my ring walk music and turn it in, and then they played. They didn't play my ring walk music, and they turn on the radio or turn on the speaker system, and they're like, "All right, it's your turn to go." And I'm like, "That's not my music, man." He's like, "Doesn't matter, you got to go." And it was like, I don't even know what the name of the song was, but it was like some Oasis song. They're from London, and so it ended up being pretty cool because all the London fans like loved me because I walked out to the ring to Oasis, and I had no clue what the song was. I had no idea what I knew one Oasis song in my life, and everyone thought I like did that on purpose. I'm like, they just did it for me, man.
Okay. Question 11. If the mayor of your city was willing to name something after you, what would you want named after you in the city?
Oh man. Well, not in the city I grew up in, Osseo. It's where my family still lives. I would want. We lived on. There was a little alley, or like not an alley, like a little street that goes on the side of my house where we always used to play. It was First and a Half Street. So I'd want it to be. I'd want that to be named something after me. First and a Half Street.
All right. Question 12. If you got into a street fight with 3 guys, what 2 Minnesota boxers would you choose to be on your side to fight with?
Joey Abel and Phil Williams.
Okay, that's a pretty good pair.
I'll sit back in the back and watch them boys do all the work.
All right, question 13. If you could win a trophy or an award in something other than boxing, what would it be?
I want to win the Bassmaster Classic.
Okay. All right, question 14. If you had to spend 30 days in a jail cell, what comedian would you choose to be your cellmate?
Joey Diaz.
Okay. All right. So now most people that know you personally or have seen you or met you, they know you're a pretty mellow guy, man. It takes quite a bit to get you riled up. So I threw this question in here because I'm curious and the fans are probably curious. Question 15. What is a pet peeve of yours that just drives you nuts?
Yeah, I don't get riled up too often. I was just talking about this the other day with my boy. I really, really hate when people smoke cigarettes and throw cigarette butts out their car window. It drives me crazy, man. I want to fight people because of it.
I knew there had to be something out there.
Yeah.
All right, question 16. Have you ever had to save someone's life?
I tried to, and unfortunately, I couldn't. A couple summers ago, man, a guy that I knew drowned, and we tried to save him, and he ended up drowning, man.
Did you literally have to jump in the water and?
Yeah, like pull him out of the water. Yeah, on a lake that my cousin lives on, and he's a guy that lived across the lake, and it was windy, and he didn't have a life jacket on, and he jumped in to kind of help his kids, and he went underneath, and we got the kids in a canoe. We went out there with the canoe and got the kids into the canoe, and then brought them back to their pontoon that stalled, and we thought somebody else picked him up, but no, they didn't pick him up, and then we had to go find him and drag him out of the water, and the sheriffs tried to resuscitate him, but it was too late.
Yeah, but it sounds like you guys actually saved his kids' lives.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, they had life jackets on and floaties and stuff like that, so they were not in big danger, but we got the kids out of there. But I wish we could have saved Chad too.
Okay. All right, question 17. Do you have any phobias?
Not really. Well, I don't like heights, man. I've always been afraid of heights since I was a little kid. So I don't like heights, man. I can't be like standing on the edge of a building when I'm on the roof or anything like that. But that's about it, man.
But flying's okay. You don't mind flying?
Yeah, I don't care, man. I don't care. I'm not trying to jump out of no plane or nothing like that, but but flying's all right.
All right, question 18. If you could have a conversation with one person from history, who would it be?
I don't know, man. Probably my dad. I never met my dad. That's a good start. I would think, yeah.
Okay. All right, question 19. What's the best advice you've ever gotten from another boxer, and who was it?
Well, I guess not from another boxer, but from a promoter, Lou DiBella. After I fought Jermaine Taylor, he said, "Hey, you're a really good fighter. You did better than everyone expected. Obviously, everyone thought Taylor was just going to blow me out, and he basically just said, you know, this game is a beast, man. Don't let it swallow you up, and make as much money as you can, and get out while you're still healthy, and that's what I did.
Yeah, and like you said, you did better than people expected. You actually knocked him down, right?
Yeah, I almost knocked him out.
Okay, question 20. If you died tomorrow, what would you want your fans, your friends, and your family to say about you?
That I was a good person, man. That's it.
Okay. Well, listen, Caleb, I appreciate you taking time to come on and do the 20 random questions. If you got any shout outs or you want to say anything to the fans before we end, go ahead.
Shout out to Minnesota boxing in general, man. You guys always had my back and showed me all the support in the world. So appreciate y'all, and I'll keep on doing my best to represent our sport here in the state of Minnesota. And just because I'm retired doesn't mean you're gonna get rid of me, man. I'm gonna be at all the fights and hopefully announcing some fights and commentating, and I'll be at amateur boxing. I'll be at professional boxing. So yeah, just shout out to the fans and all of Minnesota boxing.
All right. And with that, hold on. And the truth has spoken.